Let's go, everybody. Hey, it's Jeremy Osterberger here with BIC Magazine. I'm joined by my friend Chad Burke, President and CEO of the Economic Alliance Houston Port Region. Chad, how are you?
Doing great, Jeremy. Doing great. It's good to be on with you guys as always.
I know, man. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We're trying to have you on a few times a year. And now that we're we're into Q1 2025, definitely want to have you on and visit for a while. So, real quick, for folks that don't know the Economic Alliance Houston Port Region, look, the Alliance has been instrumental in driving economic development, advocating for key infrastructure projects, and fostering workforce growth across one of the nation's most vital industrial corridors, which is the Houston Ship Channel and surrounding communities. And Chad, thanks again for jumping on with us. So, Chad, let's dig into what our audience wants. Regional projects and intelligence for 2025. But before we do that, let's take a look back. Let's talk about 2024. I'll start with the Economic Alliance Houston Port Region. What were some investments you guys made and the organizational growth, and give us a quick update on your organization.
Yeah. We're established all the way back in 1985 with that singular mission to grow the economy. So we have grown along with this region. Our measuring stick or metrics, if you will, is the projects that we work on. And kind of on the report card, if you will, of our success is how many project wins that we are able to land each year. And then within that, I mean, how many capital investment dollars are going into the ground, and how many jobs does that create? So those are the major things that we're tracking. I think right now, as we move into 25, we've got about 28 or 29 projects in the pipeline, totaling somewhere north of $8 billion in potential capital investment. That's completely dominated by petrochemical manufacturing, and then kind of the supply chain side of that. If not manufacturing, then moving goods, either in warehouses and or specific docks and terminals. So
No, thanks, Chad. So reflecting on 2024, we obviously expected some slowdown, especially in a presidential, election year. Was that true? Well, how did 24 turn out really for the region?
yeah, it's funny because we track every year kind of the results and the metrics, whether it's projects or wins, and every 4 years, almost on clockwork, you can see a little pullback on the number of announced projects. Last year was no different, especially with the cost of money kind of coming off of a kind of I don't know, a decade high cost of money, if you will. Where we normally average about 4 to 4.5 project announcements each year, and and about 1 billion to 1.5 billion in capital investment dollars, at least over the last decade, that's been the average. Last year there were two project announcements for a total of about $420 million. So you could see the pullback on major projects announcements last year. But looking into this year, we have one project announced already, and then we've got, like I said, probably an all-time high pipeline of projects moving into this year, and I anticipate that we'll have several really good, strong announcements before the year's over.
Chad, let's hang in that pipeline for 2025. Have you identified maybe some factors that are driving, this surge, or is it just recovery?
Yeah, there's two things. One, I mean, the in the petrochemical industry, which is a global industry, and 60% of our manufacturing is foreign direct investment. I mean, we are making products for around the world. So global margins and demand on the intermediate products that we make here along the Gulf Coast, that those margins, whether we're in supply or oversupply or undersupply, always really dictates the amount of new production that companies want to come online. And so looking into 25 and 26, we've had a little bit of a pullback. We in this industry, we tend to build which everybody wants to build at the same time, which creates a little overbuild and overproduction, and that hits the market, and then the global GDP has to kind of catch up with that, and then we recognize that it's time to build again. We're moving into it's time to build again, as the global GDP continues to grow, and so that's a positive outlook. A positive outlook again is domestically. This administration is more friendly towards oil and gas and petrochemical, as you might imagine, and so that creates positive momentum. And then just the backlog itself of projects that are ready to go is probably at a peak right now as well. So all three of those kind of converge into saying, hey, the next 24 months we should see some good project work announced.
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Chad. Yeah, obviously some executive orders related to everything from reducing permitting time to some other factors that are, such as reducing EPA overreach, right? Those types of things are going to
Yeah.
drive a lot of a positive project outlook, really nationally as well. So, okay, let's get into kind of federal, but even more state advocacy efforts, Chad, which y'all are very much a part of. So they play a crucial role in maintaining the region's competitiveness. What are some of the key policy priorities for 2025? And well, I'll stop there. Yeah, what are you seeing right now?
No, great question. And as you and I were chatting before we got on air here,
Yep.
we just had a kind of an impromptu public policy task force meeting. Almost all of our issues
Mhm.
and priorities at the state level, certainly right now, and then we'll talk a little bit about federal, but revolve around infrastructure. And infrastructure can be everything from um, uh, width and capacity on the Houston Ship Channel. It can be our freight capacity on the roads up and down 225 and 146 and I-10. It can be workforce development. Again, it's people infrastructure, if you will, when it comes to us being able to land projects. And then water. Do we have enough? Do we have water pressure? Do we have wastewater capabilities here in this region that really drives the economy? Um, City of Houston and Greater Houston Partnership are leading on some water appropriations that will go straight into this region. And when this region accounts for 20% of the state's GDP, then we need to spend money where we make money, if you will. So we have a good story to tell. But those are top priorities. We've got specific ask for appropriations for our community colleges, specific asks on the water side, specific asks on the freight transportation side, and workforce development as well. So um, uh, if you look at our white paper at the state level and then you look at it at the federal level, it's all about making this region competitive, whether it's good regulatory work and laws, or whether it's infrastructure slash workforce development. So those are top of the priority as we head into the state session. And then in April, when we take our group to DC, they will also be at the top of our priority, just different asks. And a lot of times it comes down to funding or spending money where it makes us money as a region, as a state, and as a nation. And this region is the economic driver. We're unabashed about that. When you consider the 1.5 million Texas jobs it creates and over 3 million national jobs that it creates just in the Houston Port region, we've got a good story to tell, and we just need to go up there and fight for those dollars. So.
That's right. Thanks, Chad, for that update at the state level primarily. So I want to get into even more localized. So folks that live here in the Southeast Houston area, they're really familiar with, but we got projects like the Highway 225 redevelopment and
Yep.
Beltway 8, connecting into the 146 expansion that's happening. Can you give us the latest update on these efforts and how will they impact economic growth in the Ship Channel area?
Yeah, a couple of really, I mean, this is an exciting time when it comes to freight transportation and road capacity, right? Those are things that you don't normally get excited about.
Mhm.
But I kind of get excited when we talk about projects to add capacity to our ability to move products in and out of this region. So first, I'll start with the project that is now, as of today, under construction, and that is the direct connectors Some people refer to them as flyovers. So direct connectors at the intersection of Highway 225 and Beltway 8, just south of the Beltway 8 Ship Channel Bridge, right? So we're building about $1.5 billion bridge that's about halfway done. That's replacing the old bridge. But just south of that, as you go into the intersection between 225 and Beltway 8, to this day and for years, you've had to go through three red lights to make a left-hand turn to get through that intersection if you wanted to change directions. Well, that intersection sits at the heart of the busiest freight corridor in the state and probably the busiest in the country if we actually had to compare numbers. We move somewhere between 40 and 50,000 trucks a day between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. every single day down that. And then you throw on top of that probably 10 to 20,000 employees as they get in and out of work in the facilities along 225. And regularly at between 4:30 and 6:30, it backs up from that intersection all the way west, all the way into 146, which is about 8 miles away. So you can see the criticality of that. So that project is approved, it is funded, and the first five of those eight direct connectors begin construction this year. And then next year, probably in 26, the final three will begin construction. It will take us a few years to get through that process, and they will coincide with the completion of the bridge just north of there. So we've got probably 4 or 5 years worth of construction, but we have that switch has turned, and we are actually under construction for those eight direct connectors. Huge win for the region. That came out of our transportation committee led by industry and our cities and the county, doing a great job on that as well. The second big project is the redevelopment of Highway 225, which will add capacity. We can't go wider now on 225 because of road right-of-way restrictions. So the design plan from TxDOT is to add a second deck on top and create 4 lanes, 4 more lanes of traffic, vertical. Now, whoever ends up driving up there, whether it's all commuter or whether it's trucks or it's a mix or what it might be, that's yet to be determined. But the good news is that project's been recommended by TxDOT. We are in a very critical month this month and next month with the Transportation Policy Council, which is we have to get that project approved to the RTP, which is the Regional Transportation Plan. And once it is approved and in the plan, then that opens it up for funding, which we can then continue to advocate for. But it's got to be on the plan. They are reviewing all the projects for selection in February of this year, and in March next month, the selections are made for the RTP. So we've gotten some good feedback from some of those on the board that it looks like a no-brainer. But again, I go back to, hey, this corridor represents 20% of the state's GDP. We have to continue to provide capacity to move those products efficiently, or we begin to lose capital investment and production to other ports that may be more efficient. So those are the two big projects that are going on right now. One is in a great spot and about to be constructed, and the other is about to be kind of put into the plan. So that's the last big hurdle that we've got, because I think it will be funded once we get it in there.
And I guess pairing that with Project 11, the widening and deepening of the
Yeah.
of the ship channel is all playing into this as well. So.
Yeah. I mean, the timeliness of us working on our infrastructure to catch up with production. So I tell people this all the time, that infrastructure doesn't move at the same pace of business, right? ExxonMobil can decide to spend $3 billion on a world scale ethane cracker unit, and 48 months later, or 24 months later, 2 years later, they can have that thing up and running. Well, our infrastructure moves in decades, right? Versus months. And so we had huge influx of capital investment once the shale revolution hit, and we became the advantageous place in the world to manufacture the products that we make here. Our infrastructure now is spending. We're in about a decade into trying to catch up with the increase in production that we now do. at the same time that increase in production, I mean, capital investment that we just talked about continues to roll along. And we are working the system to catch the infrastructure up with the business side of this region. So it's a constant. If you're not on it, somebody else is screaming or banging the drum louder than you are. They're going to get the funding. So it's a constant kind of battle to stay competitive for those dollars.
That's right, Chad. No, thanks for that explanation. So, Chad, you and I, and well, BIC Alliance and Economic Alliance Houston Port Region partner on a lot of events. Let's go into March. What's happening in March?
Yeah, March 6th. I love this event. It's kind of, it's the first quarter event. We want to look into the year. We always have an economic forecast this time of year. And this year, no different with a couple of fantastic speakers. We've got Jesse Thompson from the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas, headquartered here in Houston. Jesse is a phenomenal economist. He does a fantastic job. They are on they've got their finger on the pulse, obviously, of what's happening in our economy. Jesse does a great job of really conveying that, giving a macro look at the overall economy, then coming down a little bit to kind of what's happening in the Houston and oil and gas industry, and then we're pairing him again with Michael Bergen from Industrial Information Resources, or IIR, to really drill into the petrochemical manufacturing along the Gulf Coast and what those capital dollars, what those projects look like, and what that capital investment and what that workforce demand is going to look like over the next 24 months. So you get a little bit of macro, and then for us, you really dive down into the micro. And then, of course, we have our very own Jeremy with BIC to moderate a little Q&A and dive into and kind of provide your excellent kind of knowledgeable spin on what that means for this region and kind of tease out some of that good information from both of those, really, really smart guys that have a lot of great information.
Yeah, the smart guys, not including me, by the way. The other two
And me,
guys, yes.
right? There's a
Yeah,
there's a
there we
reason
go.
I'm not up there with them too.
Yeah, that's
So,
all.
but yeah, that's
Yeah.
March 6th at 3 from 3 to 5. It's kind of a afternoon reception type of event.
Yeah.
It's over at
Okay.
Lee College in Baytown, and everybody's welcome to come. It's a great place to network and hear some really good information.
Okay, fantastic. So, Chad, let's do this. We've been on for quite a while. We're going to wrap up this meeting, but you're welcome anytime to come back on with us. And we love project and expansion news. And so thank you, Chad, for always making some time for BIC. And we appreciate our partnership so much.
Oh, thank you, Jeremy. I really appreciate the partnership and all the work you guys do there.
Hey, if you're listening and want to learn more about the Economic Alliance Houston Port Region as well as upcoming events, visit allianceportregion.com. As always, we thank you for watching. And if you want more news, videos, podcasts, and intelligence, visit bicmagazine.com. Remember, everybody, it's what we do together that counts.